I guess we should start this episode. We should film something, but
Well,
something
no,
else.
I mean, I've been recording this whole time, but like,
Oh,
let's talk about some of the,
maybe
because
cool.
it's good content.
Yeah, it is good content. Oh, I'm glad
Everything is content. Everything is
glad you're
content.
filming because I wasn't thinking about you filming, so it's actually sometimes I'm more natural.
Welcome to Right There With You, where we lean into life's biggest questions, challenge what we know, and discover the strength we've had already.
This is my dear friend and co-host, Ciarra Jones, theologian and lifelong explorer of faith, identity, and purpose.
And say hello to my co-host and buddy, Cass Cooper, a professional chaos whisperer who loves untangling the complexity of human relationships.
Here we embrace the journey, no matter how uncertain, messy, or transformative it gets.
And no matter where you are on yours, we're right there with you.
Hey there, Ciarra. How are you?
You know what? I'm doing okay, yo. Before we started this, episode, we were talking about my TikTok, and it's not growing the way I want it to grow, but that's okay. So I'm trying to stay engaged about it.
No, I can appreciate that because I'm on a TikTok growth journey as well. I think you've had a lot of success online. So I think that, sometimes like virality is chasing things and it just comes easily. And then sometimes you got to work for it. And honestly, though, you've been focused on a lot of other things too. So that's okay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I really just think that you'll get back to it. Also, you have 10 times the followers as me. So I don't think that you're slacking per se. And I think I was on a call earlier today about, sometimes our wins aren't what we think they are. And we have to sit back and look and say, hey, I had a win here and I had a win here. And sometimes the win is you just posted a video today. Sometimes
Absolutely.
a win is you got one follower,
Yeah. I love
So
that.
you're
I
doing
like that.
great. You're also giving early 2000s mask realness with the bucket hat. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's so good. It's almost reminding me of TLC back in the, you know what I mean? Yeah. I love it.
I want to break down to a little B2K. I know that you wanting it. Tell me, can you handle it?
I love
These young
it.
ones don't even know about B2K. Okay,
They don't even know. Also, when did we become the aunties for real? I don't understand.
I feel like I'm 31, so I feel like I'm a conti, a cousin auntie. You know what I mean? Like if you see me online, call me cousin. Please don't call me auntie yet. You know what I mean? Like,
oh my gosh, I'm totally an auntie. I got an invitation this week to my 25th high school reunion.
Kind of crazy. That is kind of crazy. But you look so young.
I graduated from high school in 2000.
I mean, I think I'm near my 14th. When did I graduate? 2012. So I'm near 13. The time flies. But gosh, you're like aging
I
back.
got married in 2012. Bless it. My cheese.
I probably have friends who got married in 2012 too, because people get married at 18 years old sometimes. So that's all to say.
Oh yeah.
I see you very youthful. I see you as having so much time in your life, and you literally look crazy young. Like you look like you just look young. And
I'm gonna tell you, my keys to skincare. One of the things, and this gets into our conversation today because we're doing part 2 of our compet. But one of the things about heteronormativity that my mom really gave me was taking care of your skin. I mean, in 8th grade, she took me to the Clinique counter and got me the 3-step skincare system. So I have been always about taking care of my skin. She said, you have one face, so you got to take care of your face. So I have been all about my face skincare. And as I've gotten older, it really is about rest, water, and good moisturizer and sunscreen.
See, but this brings us into today's conversation in a segue you might not expect, which is, okay, we might think that skincare, right, like we associate it with heterosexual women in a particular type of femininity, but it has been my last 2 queer partners who got me on skincare. I used to have no skincare routine. Like I used to have none, you know what I mean? And my mom is like a tomboy.
Wild to me.
Wait, why?
Well, the person I was dating didn't have skincare either. I'm like, how are you not washing your face? Oh, I just use regular soap. Regular soap? the same soap that you wash the crack in your ass with is what you put on your face? No, I can't.
Yeah. That
But
is
you're
kind of
right.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my first femme presenting girlfriend, like I was I was washing my face and literally I heard an audible gasp behind me. It was like and I turned around and she was like, "Did you just use hand soap and wash your face?" And I was like, "Well, I'm like running out the house." Like, and she was like, "Oh no." And like the next day, we like had all the skincare stuff, and she was like, "You have to wash like with the grain of your face." It's like, and it wasn't like
Yeah.
again, like it wasn't
When you
like
moisturize, you go up.
yeah,
Like,
up. Like I didn't know.
yes,
I
because the
didn't know.
wrinkles come down. So you got to wash up. Gravity,
Yes,
honey. It's
yes.
science.
No, it's seriously. That's what I'm saying. Like for me, like I always was like I always been naturally a tomboy, and my mom was a bit of a tomboy too. My mom was a straight woman, but like she just is pretty sporty and stuff. And like I always felt like I existed outside of being able to do those things like face care, makeup. Like I just felt like, especially being a more for me, even before I even understood queerness, I was read as a little more masked. So I
Hmm.
think I just felt outside of this kind of femininity. And so it's interesting that like it actually has been my like it has been my femme partners that have introduced me, like Azriel, who's my current partner. Oh my god, that reminds me of the TikTok. Is my partner. Okay, not like have you seen the TikTok where people are like, "This is my current husband," and then they're like, and then they get hecka mad.
Right?
Have you seen?
Or no, I love the ones where they're like, let me introduce you to my ex-boyfriend. Stop saying that I'm your husband, you know?
Let me be clear. No, just my partner. I just meant my partner at present. um,
Yes. In the present today.
yes,
Yes,
the
I
present.
get it.
Hey, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
just like she used to be a makeup artist. Like she just took me to Sephora and like matched all my makeup for
I
me.
didn't
Does
know
my
that.
yeah, and she's
How did I
phenomenal,
not know she was a makeup artist?
girl. I didn't even. I
Oh,
forgot. So I forgot.
also has amazing skin, by the way.
Yes, I'm very skinny. She be taking care of it. So she also has put me onto my skincare. So it's all to say I want to throw it back to you and say like it was interesting that you mentioned like yeah, heterosexuality and skincare when it's been the gays. The gays have brought me into skincare.
The gays have brought you into skincare, but femme presenting gays, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also think there's an underlining of masculinity that you just get to appear, you know,
Mm-hmm.
especially with cis het men, they just show up. I mean, I remember
Mm-hmm.
growing up, even just the cool boys didn't really, and I grew up in a mostly white identified area, so this is also has whiteness layered into it. But, you know, the cool boys didn't really, you know, cut their hair. They had very effortless look and feel, and they got to just show up. Whereas we had that too a little bit because I went to a very small school, but it was more of you could tell that they just rolled out of bed and just put on some clothes. Whereas our parents were very much, you know, and then when got to high school, we all wore uniforms and I went to an all girls school. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of where I think the economic differences showed up because even though we all wore the same, there was different ways of showing up in your femininity with like the shoes you wore or even doing your makeup or not doing your makeup, being able to talk about what type of like I didn't know what a pedicure was, and I just thought that all these girls were walking around with perfect manicured toes, and there was something wrong with me because my toes didn't look like that, and it wasn't even that at all. Their parents had the disposable income to take them to get a pedi. What's up? What are you gonna say?
My pause is do you want to film this or do you want to talk about how you're dealing with your breakup?
No, let's film. Yeah,
Okay, well, making sure because I'm like
I'm good. No. So when I say I'm not doing good, I mean more of I'm still functioning. I'm getting the things done. You know, I'm eating, I'm drinking water, all those things. But it's the nighttime, like alone time, the quiet spaces, the times where we would normally, like where she was a big part of my routine that
yeah,
I'm like, oh man, I miss that part. But then I
yeah,
also am paying attention to do I miss having someone or do I miss them in particular?
yeah.
Um, and so I've been thinking a lot about that this week. I think, I mean, honestly, I do sleep better at like starting and ending your day with someone is so helpful. And just knowing that someone is there to care for and to pour into you and root for you is something that I do really long for. So it's not that I'm doing poorly with the breakup or anything like that. I think it's more of I'm I'm just in it, you know? And
Mm-hmm,
I have noticed that I'm staying up later than I normally would. And it's the nighttime where your mind just kind of wanders and races. During the day, I'm filled with so many different activities and, being a parent and all this stuff. And so now at night, where it would be the space where I would wind down with a particular person, I don't really have that. But
yeah.
the good part is I'm really feeling, how do I champion myself? And how do I not always look for that external validation? I think external validation has its place, right? But how do I champion myself so that I can not put up a wall and not lean on other people, because I do think it's important to have people, but how do I balance that with, you know what, I have this intrinsic ability to champion myself and to pull myself up and um, be motivated for myself.
Mm.
So
I'm really
I think
impressed.
I'm just in it, like
Yeah,
going back and forth and trying to figure it out. I do think the space that I've had is helpful, because it's just given me some time to really think and reflect. And what do I want? Do I see myself getting married again? I think I was so close to my marriage that I just didn't want to be alone, for one. I also spent so much time not being wanted or desired, or that was really painful. And so having to fill that space, even if it was like short term, that I think for the time, the folks that I've dated, that was helpful.
yeah.
Um and so now I'm in a place where I really want to interrogate, what do things look like? I'm telling myself that it's okay and it's not forever.
Yeah, yeah. I hear what you're saying. I think like there's a few things I want to just appreciate. Like one, like yeah, their fortitude. Like at least for me, like my last breakup was very destabilizing. So I really empathize with my friends when they go through. It has made me empathize with the process of decoupling in a very new way. And
Mhm,
I think you're
mhm.
just doing a great job, like staying grounded and like staying connected to yourself. And wow,
Listen, what I've divorced was terrible.
mm,
Terrible.
mm,
I mean, I think I did pretty okay with keeping my life together, but
yeah,
it ravaged me financially. It pulled me apart emotionally. I think I didn't file with like, okay, I'm ready to move on in this world without a partner. I filed because I just could not be here anymore. And
yeah,
I didn't have the emotional capacity to think, okay, what is the next? What is life outside of this? I just wanted to be done with it.
mm,
But he did not have that same sentiment. And so a lot of the year that it took to actually get divorced was wrapped in just painful, like, I don't understand why this person can't just let this go.
mm.
But it was also indicative of the issues and challenges we had in our relationship, because when I was ready to move and do something, he would always I'd always be dragging him along. So that still played out in our divorce.
I think that not being partnered it can be very eye-opening, especially for men. I think there's a lot that men take for granted that they receive from women, like they're told that this emotional labor is available to them. So I do think men tend to struggle a lot at the end of their partnerships because there were things that they thought should just be automatic that they realized were like effort center that their partner was doing for them, and like it just
100%.
it's interesting. And I think even for myself, I have a new appreciation for like, what I receive in partnership with Azrael because I have loved and lost, has given me a whole new appreciation for, like, what it means, like, when she be like, I feel like when I was first dating, I maybe wouldn't have appreciated, like, someone driving to pick me up at work. Now I really appreciate, like, because I know what it is to also grieve that absence. Like, it's so easy to
Mm,
habituate to its presence, and, like, I think my last experience with grief made me really think about it gave me a whole new gratitude for partnership and when someone shows up and what it means for those, like, the little things, like
she makes me protein coffee. I've never had protein coffee. I'm very grateful for that protein coffee. Like, just it's given me a whole gratitude for the nurturing or the care because I know what it feels like when it goes too, you know?
And I think to me, I identify so much with content creators who are talking about this because it validates my experience. When I told him I was getting divorced, like I filed for divorce or I had gone talking to a lawyer, his answer was not, I want to save my family. I love you so much. Like, let's figure this out. His answer was, what am I going to do? Because I had done so much that that was going away, and now you're on your own to figure it out, right? The house we had was because I hustled to get the things we needed in order to get the house. The child we had and like the care that we put in, the school she went to, the church we were attending, all the things that we had made in this life are centered around the real labor that I did in order to make and I was, and I could understand how that feels like you're pulling the rug out from under somebody. But like we said in previous episodes, I didn't want to do that in order to be empty.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Oh, I guess we should start this episode. We should film something, but
Well,
something
no,
else.
I mean, I've been recording this whole time, but like
Oh,
let's talk about some of the,
maybe
because
well,
it's good content.
yeah, it is good content. Well, I'm glad
Everything is content. Everything
I'm
is
glad you're
content.
filming because I wasn't thinking about you filming, so it's actually sometimes I'm more natural. Um,
Yeah.
but I think well, actually, one thing I wanted to say, and then we can get maybe this will just be the episode is a spitballing. But I think I last night I ran a talk for Pride in the Pews, which was like it was crazy because it was just me, the speaker, and maybe four other fellows. I work for context with the audience. I consult for an organization called Pride in the Pews, and we champion LGBTQ inclusion in the Black Church. And there's two fellowships that I run as part of that program: the Black Church Equality Fellowship and the Faith and HIV Fellowship. And both of them teach Black pastors how to create more queer affirming congregations. And like the best part of the work is I get to hire like it's actually insane who we're able to hire, which makes me think about myself as a small business owner, like believing in the partnerships you can have because we've worked with Dr. Tamar Bryant, who's one of the biggest religious psychologists in the U.S. We've worked with Dr. Pamela Lightsey, who like basically is like the founder of queer theology, queer Black queer theology. We've done some really cool stuff. And so last night we worked with an amazing woman called Reverend Dr. And she's a grief specialist. I actually ended up signing up for a consultation with her after because of just all the things she said. I want to even read some of I screenshotted it because it was so good. I was like, I need to save this whole meeting chat because what the heck. Uh, there were so many things that she said. Like one thing I loved that she said about grief was like, you don't have to die where it died. And you don't have to die where that thing died. And like, we talked a lot about what it means and then like what that means. And then something else she said is, like, but just because you didn't move today doesn't mean you're stuck. And so, like, what are Western notions of moving forward versus like what are like Black notions of moving forward? What are embodied notions of moving forward that like moving through grief doesn't need to be a quick process. Something else she also said that I loved was swallowed grief is never digested. And we
Wait,
talked a
wait,
lot
wait. Say it again. Swallowed grief is never
never
digest. Oh,
digested. And so like she talked a lot about like the ways that we circumvent and repress our grief. And then another
that's
thing
huge because even the grief that not just the grief about the relationships that romantically, I think about the grief with my dad. The best thing, as shitty as it was when my dad died, because he died unexpectedly, the best thing for me was that I was in a position where I could drop everything and I grieved in real time, right?
yes.
I didn't have to, I was able to just pick up, go to St. Louis. I was there for 3 weeks, and then I came back for a week, and then I was there for another 3 weeks. And I was in his space and with his things and was able to, move through things. I still was getting things done, but I was able to move through things at a reasonable clip rather than, okay, I got to hurry up and have this service. And, and I look at my sister, for instance, I didn't have to go back to work because I was running my own business. So I just took that time off,
Mm,
and it was, it was very helpful. And I think that's part of the problem that we have with grief in general is there's no systemic holding up or places where people can actually have that. I recognize that people die or things happen in our life, but we don't recognize how that shifts your brain chemistry, your rhythm of your life, and just feeling like I think of my friend who her mom has dementia, and
We talked
that's
about
a
that.
long
A
that's a
long grief
long
process.
grief
Yes.
process
Yeah.
because it's the finding out, and you're watching this person and now she's at the point where her mom thinks that she is her mom. She see like because they kind of look similar. She
Yeah.
looks like her grandmother, and so like it's just really like how hard is it the person that has loved and cared for you your entire life now sees you as their caretaker and what that does to you, but this woman still has to get up and go to work and
Yeah.
function and raise their children and all these things. And so like the spaces that are institutional to help you grieve are so few and far between.
They're so important, and yes, like, absolutely, like, one, like, yeah, that idea of Alzheimer's or dementia and, like, yeah, the slow grief process, watching someone disappear in front of us, and something we talked about a lot as a group was 2 things also, like, the grief of deconstruction, like, grieving what you've known religiously or what you've known spiritually around how to protect yourself, around how to understand yourself and understand the world, like, what that looks like when we grieve and leave certain ideologies or faith practices. But I think something I love that she said the most too was that, like, once she said grief is inevitable in life, we become too attached to permanence. But something else she said is the longer you live apart from who you are, the more you'll grieve too. That grief is like, we talked a lot about grief as this teacher and this friend that's trying to nudge us and tell us what is working and what is not. And something that made me think about is like, when I went through a lot last year, like something I thought is like maybe coming back into the workforce will be stabilizing. And what's been really cool is like as I've been in therapy is realizing like I don't like being back in the workforce. And like I think like because I went through a big grief journey, like I had this idea of like now I need my life to be like clean and legible because I went through a hard time. Like now I want to show like I got through the hard time by like putting everything in order. But I don't like how I put some things back in order, so I need to break them again. And, like, I think what made me realize is, like, grief is this, like, cyclical process, like, I will grieve and stabilize, and I might grieve again, and, like, I think she helped me think a lot about grief also being a signal of growth just as much as it's a signal of loss, like,
Mm.
it's this thing about shedding and outgrowing that is griefful, but if we're so against grief, we might miss that we're not grieving because something is wrong that we're leaving a chapter, we're grieving because we're growing into a new chapter, and, like, I don't know, it just made me think about so much. What are your thoughts on that? What are Cass's thoughts?
Oh my gosh, so many, because I think we think grief is like the ending, right? And we don't we don't often think of like the steps of grief, like, not the final, but like the acceptance part of grief
Oh, yeah.
really means that you're at the beginning of something else because your life continues. Hopefully, your life continues because you've accepted this loss. I think about my dad pretty much every day. He was my best. When I say he was my best friend, and what's so funny is having him as the stabilizing force in my life really helped me to get to where I was, but not having him catapulted me to where I am now. I really truly
Mm.
believe that
Mm.
if my dad had not died, I would have stayed married.
Is it because of his expectation of
His
heteronormativity or
expectation for one of heteronormativity for one, his ability as the primary man he was the primary man in my life, even outside of my husband. If there was something that my husband wasn't doing, I could go to my daddy.
Yeah,
When it
yeah.
came to emotional support, when it came to money, when it came to parenting advice, decision making. I remember when little was super
Oh,
super
oh.
small and we were struggling so much financially and her feet just kept fucking growing and I was like, Dad,
I
I
need to
cannot keep this kid in shoes.
yeah.
he was like, he came down here. Came down every other month anyway, but he came down here, and the first thing we did when he got off the plane was go and buy my baby shoes.
Mm.
Those
That's
kinds of
all
things,
filling the gaps of your marriage.
filling the gaps. And so it became,
Mhm.
so not only did his death catapult me into realizing this man does not know how to show up for me, but it
Mm.
also made me realize when I started to really see and look at those gaps and grieving the loss of those things, it was about, man, now I have to fill in these gaps for myself. And this man is not able, willing, or capable to
Doing
do it.
that.
And so
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, well, I got nothing to lose.
Mm.
If I'm going to do it by myself anyway, I'm not
Yeah.
going to drag you along with it. So then
Yeah.
that catapulted me into, and even because I was in my master's program, and Ciarra, this is crazy. I can't even believe we're talking about this. Um,
No, I like how this episode's unfolding.
yeah, I do too. I put it as a bonus episode.
I like that.
Um, I think even as I think about how, so the last conversation he and I had, right? Um, I'll never forget it. March 7th, 2021. I was in the middle of my master's program. I had a paper. You know how that goes. You got a paper that's due at 11:59 and it's 9:30. And you're like, I've done all this research, but now I got to put something on the page and I only have 2 hours to do it. What am I going to do? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he called me and he's like, what are you doing up still? I was like, what are you doing calling me if you're know that I should be sleeping, whatever. And I was like, Dad, I don't know what I'm doing. I signed up to do this master's program. I don't know what it's gonna look like on the other side. I'm just, trying to build the plane as I fly it. And he's like, you're a resourceful woman. You will figure it out. And
Mm.
I was like, yeah, but he's like, no, you're super resourceful. You will figure it out.
Mm.
And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, Daddy, I gotta go because I gotta finish this paper, blah, 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 right? Next morning, he was dead.
It was
Yeah.
sudden? It wasn't like a
Oh,
warming.
yeah.
I didn't
So
realize I didn't like this.
no, yeah, he had a heart attack when he was washing dishes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I mean, like, with no
Yeah,
plan. It's not like we've talked about Alzheimer's and dementia, that process, at least being able to prepare for grief. But for you, it was
yeah,
just sudden.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
sister called me when the paramedics were there and we were on FaceTime. Like I watched them run the code. Like it was bad.
Yeah. That's really
It was
intense.
really
Yeah.
traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you able to do like PTSD therapy around that or any kind of grief?
I mean, I was seeing what's funny is I actually had just gone to my therapist and be like, okay, I think we need to go down to once a month or whatever. She's like, okay, well, let's talk about it in our next session, that kind of thing. And then
You were like,
and
no,
I was
absolutely.
like,
Yeah, no, I was gonna
um,
like see me
I'm
every
like,
day.
no, forget
See
that.
me.
So I think that week I had a session scheduled already, and I emailed her from the plane and was like, "Yeah, no, when do you have available? I need that session, and I need one
Yes.
before."
What the hell? Yeah.
Um, and so I think for like those few weeks that I was there, we did. I think we did twice a week for like 3 weeks, and then went back to once a week and all that stuff. So she was integral with that kind of stuff.
Of course.
I think for me, it actually helped being able to see because it catapulted me into that past the denial because I saw it in real time.
Happening right
But
there.
yeah, and I think this is the thing too. It pulled in the community that I had already built, right? That I didn't know that I needed. I my best friend who lived an hour away was at my house before my ex-husband.
Mm.
I called my then husband at the first time, and he was like worthless with it. He was like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" I was like, "I don't know. Do what you think is right." And I hung up, and then I called her, and she was like, "No." And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "I'm on my way." She drove an hour to my house, and in that hour, I had text to like all the people. And I didn't know this at the time, but they all got in a group text and started like planning shit that I needed.
Now
Right.
that's friendship, bro.
So
That's friendship.
Des got on the phone with me and she calls me and she's like walking me. I was like, I don't know what to do. She's like, you need to pack a bag. I was like, okay. And so I was like, what do I take? Like, I was like, I could not. She
Function
literally
looks like
walked me
yeah.
through, find some water. Okay. You're going to need something to sleep in. I was like, it's cold there. I need this, that. She's like, don't worry about that. We will send you clothes. You need something that will get you through on the plane and something to like sleep in, and you need socks and underwear, a sweatshirt, like just throw it in a bag. I'm like, okay. And I was like, I can't find my suitcase. She's like, okay, sit down, let's get you some water. Like, she literally walked me through all the steps. Christy got here, I had already had a backpack, plane ticket booked. My other friend came and she had Chick-fil-A in her car. We pile in the car. They drive me to the airport. Now, in that time, my ex-husband has come home, but I'm already in motion, right? And he's like, well, blah, blah, blah. And Christy was like, I didn't know this. She told me this later. She goes, stop what you're doing. Stop helping Cass. You need to take care of your kid. Like, she
Wait,
was like, we've got
it's not
her.
this? Oh, okay, got it. Okay, okay.
She's like, we have Cass. You don't
Mhm.
have to worry about Cass. You take care of the child.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if the child is not taken care of, Cass is going to hate you more.
Yeah,
Because I
absolutely.
did not have the capacity to do all I could barely, I was being told to drink water, man.
Uh,
But that's why you build community when you don't really think you need it. Because then when you need it,
it's there. Yeah,
mhm,
absolutely. No, absolutely. I think
mhm,
it's hard because we live in a society, I think, that can turn away from grief, that can feel a deep discomfort on other people's grief. But the reality is, like, grief is a community practice. It is. Like, it is about all of us coming in and, like, being with someone as something that is core to them has died. Because, like, the reality is, like, our identities are synergistic and interconnected. So, like, for example, we have a deep friendship. Like, this would never happen, but if we had a falling out, a part of my identity or sense of self goes with you too. The part that has been affirmed by you or encouraged with you by you, like, might
mhm,
also feel inflamed. And like, it takes community to come back in and like kind of put you back together. And I think that's something I think about so much in Western society is our lack of community praxis, and why I love your stories because there was an abundance of it. But I think overall in our society, we have this lack of community praxis around grief. Like, something I love about like Habesha and Ethiopian culture is like it can be an intense, but like after someone dies, like everyone comes together for 40 days for the purpose of grieving. Like there's an understanding that the body needs to grieve as part of the healing process. And they set aside that time. I think for Jewish people, it's like Shiva is like that
mhm.
time to like come together and grieve. But other cultures have this understanding that grief is a collective community practice. And sometimes I think in the US, and I've seen myself do this in my own season of grieving, which is why I mentioned working with Dr. Reverend Jamie Eady and why I think she made me realize like I am still grieving and there's something important to it's important to name that and accept that because grief stays as long as it needs to teach us a lesson. And I think I just been thinking a lot about grief as a teacher and a friend, but in your story, I also hear how other people grieved with you. And I think sometimes we're missing collectively in US society, we're missing that that's such a part of helping people move through grief is showing up in community. And the last thing I'll say that I love is like I'm reading right now The Four Vision Quests of Jesus, which is by Charles Stevenson, I think is his name, or maybe it's Stephen Charleston. I think I might be inverting it, but he like is amazing. He's indigenous and he talks so much about how, like, when there's a merging of indigenous and Christian values, like he talked about the indigenous process of doing a vision quest, and that part of that is like the community grieving who you were and receiving you as a new being once you come out of your vision quest. And like, I don't know, I was thinking so much about community and grief that like we were never supposed to do this life alone. But I think in particular, we are not supposed to hold grief alone. I think it's supposed to be a community practice. And I love that your community showed up for you in that time. Like you deserve that, you know?
Thank you. I do too. And there's something about meeting someone in their grief that increases the intimacy of your relationships.
Oh my
I think
gosh,
that
1000%.
it shows who sees you. who really, not because of your title to them or your relationship to them, but who really understands that woman came to my house because she knew that my dad was my person. Not because it was my dad and she was a friend. She knew that that loss was going to break me. And when I started to break, she was there to pick up the pieces with me. Not for me, with me.
With you.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the part. I don't know what you need right now, but I'm going to sit here with you while we both figure it out.
Mm.
And I think it's really hard. And going back to, catapulting me into my divorce, it made it more clear the intimacy that I desired, right? That I did not have
Yes.
with my partner. And I
Yeah.
think there's some people who
Through the
can go
friendship.
their whole, say
You
it
mean
again?
you mean through the friendship intimacy, you're able to see what the partner.
Through watching the other intimate friendships that I had and not have that with my partner, the person who theoretically is supposed to be the one
Showing
orchestrating
up
the
in all these
community
places.
around you
Yeah.
and showing up, like, and listen, no fault to him, because I also think he does not have that and he did not have those things. And so when you don't have it to give, you or don't have it for yourself, you also don't have it to give, right? I don't want this to be
Absolutely.
like a baby daddy bashing, ex-husband bashing
No,
thing.
no, absolutely not.
Even though I don't like that. No, it's fine. we
Processing
can
also.
hold we can hold two things to be true. But the intimacy of, because now as I am watching her go through her own grief, right? Because now she's the one with the mom that has dementia. I didn't mention that. So now as I'm watching her go through her own grief, I can show up for her, not in the way that I needed, but in the way that she needs it, right? How can I be present because we have this shared ability to be intimate?
I love that. I think like I feel like as you were there in my deep season of grief, and I was in my own deep season of grief, I was surprised by the friendships that fell away and the friendships that stayed. You never know. You
Mm,
really never know.
you really
Like
don't.
who was going to, yeah, like who was going to feel comfortable. And something I felt about the friendships that fell away, those are my friendships that like were centered around my status and achievement. And I was kind of glad they fell away because honestly, I couldn't maintain the level of status and achievement anyway. Like, I was going to fall short of having it together all the time or this or that. Like, I had friends I'm lucky enough to be someone who has a lot of friends over 10 years plus, and in that season was when I lost a couple of those 10 years plus friendships, and I realized what had maintained those friendships was I was always together, and what broke this friendship was for the first time, I was depressed. I needed to call. I needed to cry. And it felt like for some of those friends, they felt betrayed that I no longer was this thing. But I think I felt
Mm,
like if that is a betrayal to you, like I don't want to be in a relationship because I can't perform for you. I want to be a human person, have a human experience in relationship with other people who want to walk alongside me, both in my best moments and in my fallibility. Like it taught me a lot, and, like, in that time, the relationship that deepest the most in my life was my relationship with my mother and my brother, like, they would answer my call every day for months, every day, and, like, my mom and I maybe I've talked about this in the pod, my mom came to Oakland, she lives in
hmm.
Sacramento, she came to Oakland, she took me to Half Moon Bay, and we just spent days together by the ocean, and where she talked to me
I
about, like, the.
love also that she told you this is not, she really sat there with you, but she also didn't let you stay there.
Yes, yes, she really did, like, yeah.
She was very much, hey, I see where you're at. Yes, let's be sad. Let's cry by
Yeah,
the ocean. Let's drink a
yeah.
glass of rosé, and then let's go out and kick it, and let's have fun, and let's, and
Yes,
keep
no, we
moving
did
on with
both.
our life.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think,
Yeah.
like, I think, like, to highlight, like, my mom, which reminds you and my mom remind me of each other in certain ways, and I think, my mom got
I'm
divorced at 3
honored that
points.
you said that.
Yeah, oh my gosh, you're so powerful and magnetic, and, oh my gosh, like, you remind me so much of her. Multi-talented, like, my mom was my hero, and I know you're Lorelai's hero, like, easily, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just really show up.
She did tell me she likes me the other day. I was like, she's like, I like talking to you. I'm like, thanks,
Which
girl. I like
y'all don't
talking
know
to you.
y'all don't know Cass's daughter, but if she says she likes you, like, it's a big deal, okay? Like,
It
it's
really is, because she don't like nobody.
She's not liking people willy-nilly, but
she is Sagittarius to the core, honey. She is
yeah,
like, I'm not doing that. I don't like
yes,
it. I don't want to talk to you. I need my
no,
alone time.
it's
She was
100%. But
at the basketball game yesterday. She was like, I'm bored. And she got on her phone and started playing her game. And then she was like, wait, then we started cheering and stuff. She's like, wait, what I missed? I was like, you were on your phone.
you missed it, you don't get a replay.
You missed
Okay.
it. She's like, I just needed some time to myself. And so she did. She put on her headphones and she had her alone time in an arena full of people.
Yo, I freaking love it. Like she like something I love about Cass's daughter is something that Cass's daughter has skills I'm still developing, which again is a reflection of the confidence you've given her. And I think just the ability to affirm herself, to set her boundaries, to know what she feels, like that is that's beautiful, you know, like and like you created that, you planted those seeds and you've helped just nurture such a self-assured, amazing little girl. So it's pretty awesome. Grown woman, she's 9 and she's grown. I don't know.
She's 9 and she's grown. She really is.
No,
But
she's special.
not in an adultification of Black children
No,
way.
no, not in that way. Like, no, 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 no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but she does have a lot of emotional maturity, and I think it's is cultivated. I think also part of that, I don't know where she got some of it, to be honest, because she's always been a kid who, when she decides she's going to do something, she's just going to do it. Like,
Yeah.
people are like, oh, I struggled so much with potty training or, thumb sucking. She just one day decided she wasn't going to suck her thumb anymore. It was really that she just decided. I, and I distinctly remember she was in the back seat and we were going to get our nails done, and she always wanted to get her nails painted, and but she wouldn't get her thumb painted because she was still sucking her thumb. And then she was like, it just looks funny that I don't have this nail painted. And I was like, well, because it tastes funny when you suck your thumb. She's like, I just won't suck my thumb anymore. And then she puts her hand out and they painted her. That was it. That was it. And that was the last time she sucked her thumb.
Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I thought
She's like,
about it.
I'm done with that. Same with
I,
potty training. She was just kind of like, okay, I'm ready. And just one day she went and she sat on the pot, and that was it.
first of all, very impressive. Second of all, I have a question for you from a parental perspective. Okay, so
Sure.
when I was potty trained, this really is a bonus episode because we're going all over the place.
We're-
Two things I want to say. One is ultimately just what I was going to say in my story about my mom taking me to the ocean is
Oh, yes.
I saw my mom go through a major divorce and not have the space to grieve. And for me, I always say the biggest generational curse I feel like I'm trying to break in my life is just to grieve and feel my emotions fully as a Black woman in this world. Like that is how I'm trying to honor my humanity, is not to repress my experience. And I felt like my mom like ushered me into that too. Like we broke that cycle together, like just being able to sit and grieve. But one thing she told me, like, because I felt like at the time I was basically grieving a divorce. So I feel like something she said is like your identity has never been in someone else. It is deeply within yourself. And like all the things you're grieving in this person, like they also exist in you. So like how do you bring these things forward? And that was like so important. But
And
away from
shout out
this,
to your mom for not saying your identity is in Christ either.
oh my God. Y'all, because my mom used to be fundamentalist. She would never, thank God she did not say that. Yeah. Like she was mostly just like,
Yeah, because
I
that
don't,
to me, instantly, I'm like, meh, turn it
yeah.
off.
Turn it off. No, no, no. My mom was, she just was more of
Because
like,
it's forcing you to see the grief outside of yourself again. Like, when we say that grief is a holistic, intimate process, it's not just with the community, it's intimate in yourself. It's like you
yes.
truly feel it in your body and in your bones, in like the tears, the nervous system dysregulation, like
Oh
all of
my God.
those things are inside of you. And when we say, but then so is the ability to come out of it, right? All of that is like right there in you. And when we continue to bypass that process, it does keep us in a space where we just can't, we're just cyclically in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're
Absolutely.
afraid of always feeling this way. And I will, if there's anyone who's listening who's going through a grief process right now, just know you will not always feel that way, but you've got to sit in the shit. You just
Yeah.
got to do it. There's
Yeah.
no way around it. You will try to run and be away from it for as long as you possibly can,
Yeah.
but you have to do it in order
Yeah.
to move forward. It just, there's no, The only way out is through.
Yes, I would say the grief clears as you move through it, and it is like it is teaching you something. Something I love that they talk about in Buddhism is they call it the second arrow of suffering. And so, like, the first arrow is like, you're in a partnership and it ends. But the second arrow that deepens it is we often blame ourselves or we shame ourselves. There's this intensive resistance to change. We dig in versus recognizing, as Buddhism teaches us, and the Reverend Doctor I talked about like the only constant of life is change. There's a reason Octavia Butler says God is change, because to refuse change is to refuse God. And like we have this idea, and Reverend Dr.
Mm.
Edie said to refuse change, to refuse God. So I don't want to act like that's my quote. She said that, and it like sat with me so much. So I want to give her the credit for that quote. And yeah, when she said refuse change, refuse God, it made me think about how we live in a society that frames perfection as things never changing. Like, we're perfect if we find this partner and this job and this house and we sustain it all. We're told we're stable. But actually, something she said that I love is she said, people who do not grow and who do not feel their grief are the walking dead. And so she was like, actually, the people that we are celebrating for never moving or changing are dead in the water. Like, these are folks who are actually deeply disconnected from their sense of well-being. And she said, the more you're disconnected, the more you grieve. And the more that you like are basically present and move through your grief, the more you can be present for your current life. And so she made me think a lot about grief, not as a marker that we've done something wrong, but sometimes as a marker that we are alive and present in our lives, thinking deeply about how we feel and
Yeah.
what we need, and are willing to enact change even when it's painful because we are listening to our inner selves and our inner being. Now,
Mm.
something that I think is important to highlight that she highlights in her work and I highlight in mine is like we do not need suffering to grow, but I think it is like we don't need to usher in our own suffering or self-harm to grow. That's some like fundamentalist, toxic, white supremacist bullshit. But I think it is a recognition that part of life is change. And like, how do we relate to those changes in a way that isn't harmful to the self, isn't self blaming, and is self compassionate and recognizes that there is something to gain in grief as well, that we will never
Mhm.
circumvent grief. And I think white supremacist capitalist patriarchy is, as Bell Hooks would say, well, she would say white supremacist hetero patriarchal capitalist society.
Heteronormative white supremacist capitalist patriarchy.
Yeah, thank you. Say it again.
Heteronormative white supremacist capitalist patriarchy.
Yes, would say that like exhaustion or that suffering might be the like catapulsion for growth, like might catapult us into growth. We don't necessarily need that. But I think there also is this idea that that framework of society teaches us that if we at our best means we will circumvent grief. At our best means we will circumvent hardship. But I don't think that's true at all either. There's a normal impermanence. There's a normal cycle of change and loss that just comes with growth. And I think she made me think a lot about that. And I've been thinking about that too. Um,
I have to remind you though, that's part of how we met. Because around the time that my dad passed, that's when I stumbled upon your content. And that was one of the first things that we talked about is psychological harm and grief. And we did a
mm,
whole, I need to find the video of that. We did a whole series on that for my jobby job about grief in the workplace and
oh, yeah.
how
And I'm giving a talk on
being
that.
able to grieve, talking about, I think it was when there's layoffs and changes corporately and things like that, and how you have survivor's guilt and all those things. And I want to, make sure you recognize that that's been a part of your
Mm,
content and journey and your thought leadership for a minute. So I love that you're arriving at this place where you're recognizing the wisdom of other people, but that wisdom, again, back to the grief part, that wisdom is in you. You've been
mm.
doing that for what it's been, girl, you're gonna die. It's been 4 years that you've been doing that.
I know. 3 years on TikTok and wait, is it 4 years?
4 years. Cause I stumbled upon your content in 21 and it's 2025. It was like
I've
summer
been
21.
4 years on TikTok. That's crazy. And
And then I slid into
yeah,
the DMs,
wow.
y'all. And I was
Well,
like, hey, I need you to work on this with me.
you did say no, I honestly really appreciate that. You're right. Grief has been a part of my work. Thank you for saying that. I think I hadn't thought about that. Like I needed that. And I think something I took away from Reverend Dr. Edie and even from my working with my therapist this week is like, I don't think I'm done with grieving some of the changes in my life. I think I had this idea of like, okay, like it's been a year, I'm done. But actually, like it needs that grief needs to breathe more. And like I said, I think there's some more rearranging. Like part of the grief of that I experienced of just a major relationship loss and different changes was like I think what I knew was to stabilize through work. So I said like, let me not consult full time. I'll go back to the workforce. I don't know why at the time I felt more stabilizing, but now I think I'm like, like, was that the right way to address my grief, or do I want to come back into my consulting? So I think something I've been letting myself do is like continue to change in the process. Like, I think I decided like it's been enough change in grief, it's done. But now I'm like, actually, grief is still speaking and it's still teaching me how to move my life into more alignment. And there might be some more shifting. How do I not see that as a failure, but as an ongoing learning process? Like something my therapist said is like, she's like, I think you call this part of you that's impulsive the part of you that actually is wise and is your protector and wants to continue to change and grow? And how do we give that place like, breathing room? And I guess as we move towards close, like I'm curious for you, like for me, I see that as sacred, seeing my grief as a teacher, as a healer, as an ongoing friend. And as you think about what you shared about grief with your father and your friendships and moving through grief and community, like what's your sacred process of grief or what is the sacred part of grief for you?
Yeah, I think understanding a little bit to piggyback on what you said, but it's understanding that grief is not linear and neither
Mm,
is life. And so we have to some
yes.
days I miss my dad, like Father's Day was just earlier this month. I was like, "Oh my gosh," but then that gave me some joy because I was like, "You know what? My dad taught me a lot of great lessons. I am who I am because my dad poured into me." I see the world as I mean, my dad was a deeply spiritual, churchy person, right? And even though I was deconstructing and not really feeling it that way, he always saw me as an extension of like divine in the world. Like it was never a departure from because we saw things differently. But then also in his religiosity and his spiritualness, he taught me how to seek truth and being able to hold on to those things as I'm grieving the loss really does give me this both and approach to so many different parts of life, right? I can be sad about the fact that he's not here to create new memories while holding on to the memories that we had and seeing them as blessed and sacred. And I think the hardest part of is like what you said is that we think that our life is supposed to go in this straight orderly fashion, and quite frankly that is not how anyone's existence. I mean, listen, if you were one of the privileged few who was born, they went in this direction, stayed in that direction, and
Oh,
ends in
yeah.
that direction,
Yeah.
more power to you. The majority of us do not have that experience. So being able to say, like, I was here and then I changed and then I grew and then I went back to this thing and then I changed and I grew, like that, you're going to have some days where you're hyper productive and then you have some days where you just don't. And that is part of the human experience. So holding that part of sacred, of that grief and life is a cyclical, never ending kind of thing. And being comfortable with those dualities, to me,
Yeah.
is the most sacred thing we can do.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Just honoring that grief will likely come. Like it will. And that
Oh,
is a part of our life process. And I think we are a society, like I said, who frames the idea that to live perfectly is to circumvent grief. And I think that, especially in fundamentalism, we learn that grief is often a product of stepping outside of like the obedient path to God. In my opinion, that's what I learned in Pentecostalism. Like your grief is a marker of punishment. But I think that really like limits how we talk about our grief, how we see our grief as normal and part of the life process. And like as Dr. Reverend Edie talked about, it makes us miss out on how grief also might mean that we're growing. Like when I left fundamentalism, I grieved, but it was the best thing in the world for me. Like I've left seasons or jobs and grieved, but those were right choices. And I think we know in our body, maybe when the grief is telling us to fix versus when our grief is telling us to move forward. But I think in general, I want folks to know like grief will come greet us. And that doesn't mean that you're doing life wrong. Typically, it means you're doing life deeply present and that you're feeling into the different chapters and changes. And I think that's a superpower in a world that asks us to be numb. So I just want folks to know, like, if you are grieving or changing, I think that's also really powerful because it shows that you're present, that you're showing up for your life, that you're witnessing your life. And for me, it's a sign that you're going to come into a new season of growth and abundance. And as a gardener, I always try to remind myself every summer my garden dies and every summer it returns. And something else is going to grow where this thing died. It is just, it's scientific, it's nature. Or like something else will grow, like just
Mhm.
because that is
Mhm.
the nature of what it means to be alive and to be living. So I just want folks to know you are not where your grief says you, like you're not dying where your grief is. You're becoming, and that's something beautiful. You know?
Amazing. I love this episode. This was so good. This is not what we intended,
Yes,
but I
yes.
love bonus episode. Like, just take, it's real life, right?
Mhm.
I also think, well, one, I want to close out by inviting everyone into the Patreon. We have an amazing community that we are building. And inside of there, we have journal prompts and journal pages that you can purchase easy and help you move through some of these things. Ciarra and I did not arrive at these thoughts alone. And some of it is just journaling and processing and writing it down. And that's a great place to find it. And yeah, I think that's it for today. We were going to talk about heteronormativity in part 2, but we'll record
Okay.
that later and
Yeah,
we'll
we'll do
we'll
it
do
next
that
week.
next week. Yeah.
We went with where life led us, but I think like grief is such a community practice, and I just want to end the episode by like affirming Cass and appreciating Cass because she's someone that really walks alongside people in their journeys and like genuinely is so non-judgmental. Like you really allow people the space to move through their
I really
humanity.
high
And
key be judging you, but I just keep it to myself. No, you're good.
I feel just non-judgmental,
No,
so
I don't. I think, thank you, because I feel that I don't want to be judged. And so when I come to my friends, I want them to be able to see me. And so in order to do that, we have to do that for other people.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, you live that out, and I want y'all to know wherever you go, we're right there with you. We're so grateful to be in community with you, and we'll see you on our next episode, or I guess hear you on our next episode.
Hear you
Either
on
one.
our next. Absolutely. All right. Love you, friend.
Bye bye.
If today's conversation resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more people find this space of exploration and connection.
And if you want to go deeper, support us on Patreon. Your membership helps us keep these conversations going, and it gives you access to exclusive content.
Because this isn't just a podcast, it's a community. And no matter where you are on your journey, we're right there with you.